Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singer-songwriters and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is an award-winning jazz vocalist performing classic jazz, neo-soul, and original songs to bring the music of the past to life. New York's Broadway world hailed her voice as smooth as molasses running downhill in July. She was invited to Guyana to sing in the presence of the President and First Lady and former Governor-General Adrienne Clarkson. Her second album and DVD, Classics Live, was released in 2020. She is currently working on her third album, singing in the languages of love, French, Spanish, and Italian from around the world to bring peace, joy, and hope. So, let's spill the tea with Faith Amour. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you very much, David. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So these languages, of course, we're going to get into all the languages that you speak. Maybe we'll even dabble the interview, sprinkle the interview in some of the other languages while I upset all the French, Spanish, and Italian people, and you will do it perfectly, I know. First off, I've had guests on that are performing or are songwriting in that genre of neo-soul. And when we think about the traditional genres from years gone by, it was country, it was rock, it was pop, hip-hop. Neo-soul seems to be one that is surfacing more often now. How would you describe that genre of neo-soul?
I think that we could say that it's essentially soul music with influences of hip hop to varying degrees. There's a pop element to it, so there's some repetitiveness to it that makes it catchy for your ear, and it just is smooth. It's a vibe. It feels good. It feels really good.
When you talk about being classically trained in voice, and it reminds me, and then listening to you now and how your voice is today on your recordings, it was reminding me of the documentary about Whitney Houston and how she was such a rebel in her voice training. There was one of the opening scenes where she's very, very young, and she's taking voice lessons from her teacher, but she doesn't want to sing in that classic or that classically trained voice. She keeps wanting to sing in the way that she wants to sing. Mm-hmm. Did you have that experience with your voice teacher where, she's trying to teach, or he or she is trying to teach you one way and you keep gravitating to a different style?
I had that experience with my students where I tell them, this is I'm going to do it my way. But I digress. For myself, no, I'm actually quite a bit of a purist. So I really do like classical, operatic music to sound classical and operatic. Sometimes I'll want to add, some like gospel flavor. But for the most part, I really love it for what it is. So if we're talking about an aria, let's say a Mozart aria or anything by Puccini, I really love for it to sound the way it did in 1911, 1817, where the voice is rounded. You know what? We've had some progress in operatic voices, so I do like more later 1800s, early 19. But I like for it to sound like opera, classical, mm-hmm. and I like for neo soul to sound neo soul. You know how it is, where perhaps an operatic trained singer goes into pop or rock, and you can still hear the opera there. For me, that's not as sustaining and fulfilling as a voice that is really adapted. And some people I've met, and I'm a little bit in that category where I can separate them. You don't necessarily say, oh, that's an opera singer singing jazz, or a rock singer trying to do folk. I think that's like a very special scenario. But I like them separate. So no, I did not um, press against my instructor's instruction to make it my own way. I really liked the way they were teaching me.
Are people shocked, taken aback, surprised when they find out that you've been classically trained in an operatic genre?
I find that they often are. I would say the conversation doesn't always go there, but I've had shows where I might end with La Vie en Rose and do it in a more operatic style. I might end with, on my first album, I have a habanera, and that is from Carmen. And so I might sing that in a full, operatic style and go high places that I don't go in my voice in jazz, because jazz is kind of low and mellow. And even if it's quick, we don't necessarily go high unless we are scatting and just like going wild, having fun, going all the way to the top of our range. But typically, jazz is a lower range. So when I do an operatic song, just to mix things up, people are like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Or like Summertime, the original Porgy and Bess version was actually classical, doing it that way as opposed to it's more of a jazz standard. So yeah, it surprises them.
How has your classical training helped you sing in the various genres that you sing now?
I think it's probably a lot of the training that comes around music in general. So just ear training, being able to be on pitch, be able to hear interesting, to hear like where the music is supposed to go. And just I have a purity of tone, which sometimes I wish I had, more color, more rasp to my voice, but I worked for like a decade to like grind that out very expensively. So I have to be grateful for what I have now, because I did work for it. But yeah, I think that if anything, what one of my jazz instructors told me was, "Oh wow, as you're working harder on your classical voice, it's making your jazz voice better." And it's like it's all the same instrument. It's just different ways of using it.
So on the technical side, how many octaves do you have, and where are you? Are you a soprano, mezzo soprano? Where are you?
So funny. I actually don't know. No, no, no. That's for maybe let's say three.
4 octaves?
Yeah, 3, 4, 3.5. Let's go with 3.5.
3.5.
I can't believe I just did that. My apologies, everyone. That I don't. And so and then voice range. So when I was a child, coming up in choirs and just kind of being needed, I think I was a second alto. So that's like basically the lowest voice for females in the choir. And then I started going to voice lessons when I was about 15 or 16 privately. And my instructor said, "I think you're a soprano." And I said, "I think you need your ears checked." And then I checked my ears, and then she was right. I just had to work at it and to strengthen the muscle. But I'm a soprano. Yeah. Like you'd say soprano 2, not quite a mezzo, not a coloratura, just a soprano.
Well, let's get into one of the songs that Faith wrote. This song is from the album Bright Eyes, released in 2013. The song has well-crafted interlocking verses and cheeky put-downs along the lines of Carly Simon's You're So Vain. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Faith Amour and her song, Mr. Ego.
1, a 2, a drummer knows what to do. day lifting in the gym. He thinks that everyone around him is dim. Thinks he'll drop everything for him on a whim. Because of course the sun and moon revolve around him. He's Mr. Ego. He's Mr. Ego. Gotta let go of the pride if you want me by your side. Your turn next time. Might be a scientist or tech in a lab, but he won't know your name because he loves to blab. Might spray cologne before he gets into the cab. My brother, if you want me, better lose the gift of gab. You're Mr. Ego. Mr. Ego. He's Mr. Ego. Mr. Ego. Gotta let go of the pride if you want me by your side. Tell it to a Mr. Stew. Gifted in his craft, but in a shipwreck his head would need its own life raft. You say, hey baby, you could be mine, and I'd laugh. You say, you better play it cool, boy, you might not make the dress. You're Mr. Ego, Mr. E. You're Mr. Ego. Gotta let go of that pride if you want me by your side. Do the chorus one more time. It's Mr. Ego. You're Mr. Ego. If you want me by your side, better put it down, simmer down, give it up, relax, relate, release, let go of that pride. If you want me by your side.
That was Mr. Ego by Faith Amour. That song, when I listen to it, Faith, as I said in the introduction, I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm thinking, okay, we got to talk about, was this somebody that Faith knew? Was it somebody you dated? Was it somebody that your friend dated? You know, do you know this individual? Is this a real person? Is it somebody you made up? What was going through your thought process? Okay, all those things. Let's take them one by one. So do you know Mr. Ego?
Mr. Ego is not a personal friend. I cannot divulge the identity of Mr. Ego. Sadly, I'm so sorry. And some of those verses were definitely add-ons. It's a bit of a conglomeration of a personality, but it didn't really just, like, I didn't really write this one intentionally. I kind of was telling you, I'm not funny on purpose. It just kind of happens. But this song, it came to me in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. I woke up and I heard this song, doo, 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 and I was like, what is this? It sounds like a blues. Like, because it happens from time to time where, in the, like, you know, late night, I get inspiration and I write it down or I put it into my voice memo. So it was like the voice of God, and he was like, write this song. And I'm like, hello? Is that you? Are you serious? I was like, I don't write blues. Like, write the song. So I got out of my bed, 3 a.m. No joke. And I went into the living room and I wrote down what I heard. And then over the next couple of days is where more was added on. And it honestly became, one of my one of my most favorite songs. The kind of song that I don't do a lot of blues now in my performances, but I bring this song back. And I was a school teacher back when I wrote it, and in New Mexico. And so some of my students and their families had purchased the album, and there was a mom. She was like, "Oh, my child's," because I was teaching kindergartners, I was teaching music. My child really likes that one song, the one about the bird. And I was like, "Which? Do I sing a song about a bird? I think I sing. Yeah, Mr. Eagle." It's like, "Oh, Eagle, I get it." So cute. So yeah, it was a good one.
Now, how do people find out more about you, where your gigs are, tours, concerts, music? What's the website, streaming sites, and socials?
I will be performing all over Ontario the rest of this year. So, and within Canada as well. So go to www.faithamourjazz.com if you would like to get the information nice and early. If you want to follow me on socials, you can find me at Faith Amour Classic Jazz, at Faith Amour Classic Jazz. And if you want to send me an email, because you can, it's my name, faith.amour@gmail.com.
We have been in conversation with Faith Amour. Faith, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun. Bye.